Welcome into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. Casey Phillips here, joined by my special guest of the week, Zyon McCollum. Zyon, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, I wouldn't miss it for anything.
Oh, why, thank you. And man, what a week you have had. What a game that was. I mean, in your career so far, I have to imagine, was this one of the more, emotional games for so many different reasons?
Yes, for sure. I mean, with the week, being in New Orleans for the entire week, not knowing what's going on back home, and then to play that type of a game where, we were up so quick and then everything just seems to fall out of place, and then to come back and stay composed, I think it was very evident of that entire week, just that game all coming to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, what did it feel like this game meant to the team? Because typically everyone just says, every game is equally important. It's just, one game, they're all important. But I feel like this one did have a weight to it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anytime you're playing a divisional opponent at their place, you want to win that type of a game. And then to lose versus Atlanta, we want to get that taste out of our mouths. Of course, with the hurricane, that kind of was a bit of a distraction, but just trying to keep everybody safe, especially our families. And that was amazing that we were able to get everybody out. But to win that type of a game versus a divisional opponent, at their place, it's big time, especially for this team, to get punched in the mouth and to keep responding.
And like you mentioned, what a roller coaster of a game. I feel like all Bucs fans and players probably aged 5 years in just the second quarter alone. So tell me, in your mind, what changed from specifically that first to second quarter, and what it felt like to be out there, to go up 17-0 and then end up giving up 27 points in the second quarter.
It felt amazing when we were up 17-0. I mean, that was probably the quickest start I think I've ever been a part of. Just offense, defense working together. And then it's like dirt just turning into water. And the more you try to grasp it, it just slips through your fingers. That kind of felt like what it was happening. I mean, momentum is real. And when we lost it, just trying to do everything to hold on to it. I mean, they were attacking us and the ball wasn't kind of going our way. A lot of crazy plays happening, tipped interceptions and all type of stuff. But everybody stayed composed. At halftime, Coach Bowles just was like, look, we just need to not beat ourselves. And I think we did a really good job of that coming into the second half. Everybody understood the assignment.
I think everyone would understand if you guys came in a little disheveled, discombobulated, emotional, however you want to phrase it, because of what all had happened this week. Did it feel like there was a lot of maybe emotion and that contributed to a fast start, but then also maybe a bit of a let up? Does it feel like the way that the week went and just some of the emotions with it and the divisional opponent, did that seem like it affected it a bit?
Maybe. I mean, I think that's definitely, it could be a factor.
Yeah.
I think it's just football. Football is just a crazy sport at times. And, we just need to learn to not get as comfortable. I mean, I think that we just thought oh, we got this in the bag and nothing can stop us. And when you kind of have that mindset, the game will kind of humble you a little bit. And so I think it was really important, though, for us to get back into a close game like that. And then to be able to refocus and recompose ourselves and to go out there and finish it the way that we did, that's going to be a good win for us, I think.
Yeah, to have a second half shutout is always a great sign of what it means. Were there major adjustments made at halftime, or was it just about getting back to what you guys had already been trying to do earlier?
I think it was just getting back to that, I think we got rattled a little bit, and for us to be able to just take a breath and just get back to the basics, have our players do what they're best at, cover guys cover, rush guys rush, and let's just simplify everything and just play our brand of football.
Yeah, it is wild to think if you just took out the second quarter as if it didn't happen, you would have won 51-0. That's such a wild stat line and thought. Now let's get to the best part of this. We're talking to Zyon McCollum here. Your interception. Let's go. You're just collecting these now. Tell me, take us through that play.
Yeah, I mean, previously on the sideline, I had talked to Antoine, and because we were playing a little bit of man coverage there in the second half, and I just told him, I was like, if you're going to stay high in the post, I'm just going to undercut every route that I get and just play underneath. And so I came over in the slot. I got an inside release, and I kind of just anticipated the route and slipped it. And when he turned his head, I knew the ball was coming, so I turned my head, and there it was. And at first, I didn't think I was going to be able to go up and get it because I was so tired. My legs were dead. I didn't know if I was going to be able to jump, but I was like, no, I got to get this one.
That's awesome. And I feel like that's such a great example of what we hear about with chemistry within a defense and how important that is for you to feel like you and Antoine have that kind of rapport at this point where you guys can make those adjustments and tell that to each other. Is that how it feels now for you, of having gotten to start so many games last year, being the starter this year, that you have that chemistry with other guys on the field and to have guys like Antoine back?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, and just me getting comfortable and being able to communicate a lot more on this defense, not just with Antoine, but with Levante and with Dean and with Tyke and with everybody that I'm going to be playing with. You know, Antoine especially, though, because he's a safety and a corner. I feel like corners and safeties should be best friends. And so he's our safety blanket back there. And so I want to be able to completely utilize everything that we have to the furthest extent that it can go. And I think being able to communicate with an all-pro player like that will allow for us to make a lot more plays on the ball.
And what did you think of your game overall, even outside of that interception? What stood out to you about your performance?
I liked it. I mean, I just liked how much man coverage we played. And so getting back to just playing press coverage, trying to get hands on receivers and disrupting timing and things like that, it felt really good to get back in a groove in that aspect. And then I just think overall, you know, I thought that besides the second quarter, of course, I thought everybody was really locked in. And when everybody just started doing their jobs and just having their eyes where they're supposed to be, it's a lot of fun when everybody's playing off of each other like that.
I know, I mean, every position is a mental one, but corner in particular, especially when it comes to, as my favorite show, Ted Lasso, says, being a goldfish, where you can forget things that have happened recently. I know that for you, that Falcons game was tough for the whole team, and a couple of tough plays that you would have wanted back in that game. What was your mindset coming into this one off of that? Is there a tendency to almost play too safe after a game like that, or to see that you were still willing to say, hey, I'm going to come in and play aggressive? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, it just comes from Coach Bowles just in the offseason, and Coach Ross. You know, Coach Ross has really been in particular trying to make sure that we understand the mindset that it takes to be the type of players that we want to be. And he's been really harping on that with me and starting to develop a mindset of just being the best and knowing that I'm going to give up some plays at some point, but to bounce back and to continue protecting that mindset and that confidence. And, you know, going into this game, I wasn't even thinking about the Falcons game whatsoever. I mean, I was just so focused on trying to play the best that I could and being where my 2 feet were and being in the present moment that, you know, my mindset was just on to getting the next play. You know, even when I caught the interception, like, I was just focused on trying to go catch another one. And I think just living in the present moment has been the biggest thing with holding on to my confidence.
And speaking of confidence, a guy that seems to have a lot of it as a rookie is Tyke Smith. This guy, forced fumble, which I believe there should have been 2 forced fumbles for him, and I'm sure you would have appreciated if that second one counts since you got to recover it. But he's got his forced fumble, he gets an interception, and I mean, great plays the week before as well. What have you seen from him, especially in this game?
He's starting to like come into his own, you know, just like any rookie. You know, you need to get your feet wet at first, but we saw, like, when he's comfortable, the type of plays that he can make all throughout training camp, and he was always punching the balls out. And it's easier now to notice things like that because in a game we get the ball back and everybody can talk about it. But he does this type of stuff in practice all the time, and he just has like a certain composure about him to where you wouldn't really know that he's a rookie when you talk to him. And, you know, coming from a big program like Georgia, he already had that mindset of a winner. And so now that he's starting to get comfortable out there and starting to make those type of plays in game, I mean, I think that there are big things in store for him moving forward.
And getting Kalijah back, getting to especially watch Kalijah and Vita back there together, for you and the rest of the defense, what does that do for you? And what is it like to watch them getting a chance to be up there together doing what they do best?
I mean, it's amazing. As a DB, you know, when a guy has a step on you and you look into the backfield and the quarterback is already on his back, I mean, that's a really, really good feeling. And Kalijah, you know, the things that he does in the run and the pass game, I mean, he's a tremendous pass rusher. From the interior, and now that, you know, he's back with Vita and they can start working a lot of the chemistry that they've been working on all camp, and just that entire D-line just coming together into their own. I mean, as a DB, like, I love all of that. We have to be able to work together. We'll help the quarterback hold on to the ball, and then they'll help force bad throws. Yeah,
I mean, Vita, 3 sacks in the last 3 games, tied his longest streak in his career for sacks in games in a row. And I mean, it's just incredible to have a guy at his position and his size getting that many sacks. Has just got to be incredible for you guys, and it's got to open up so many opportunities.
Oh, I smile and like I laugh and chuckle like just thinking about Vita because just the person he is and the leader that he is, and then but the player that he is too. I mean, he's like an unstoppable, immovable force, and he's just so big, but he's so athletic to be that size and to be able to as dynamic as him. Like, I mean, there's some plays I'm on film and he's lined up at outside linebacker or D end or D tackle, and he can just move around and do so much different things at that size. It's just an amazing chess piece for us.
And for you guys on defense, what was it like to be on the sideline watching this run game for you guys just go off? Sean Tucker going off, Bucky going off. I mean, it was just incredible. 277 yards rushing. What is that like to watch? And even what's that like as a defense of like how demoralizing you must know that would feel like for the Saints?
Oh, yeah. When we play complimentary ball, we're feeding off of them. They're feeding off of us. And when we see them make dominant runs, Bucky stiff-arming people to the ground, and then Sean Tucker being able to step in. You know, Rashad went down, but there's no drop-off. And, you know, anywhere on this team, we have depth all the way around. And that's what I love about this team, too, is that they stay ready. And what they did, the job that they did was amazing. I mean, it's motivation as a defense. You know, us being able to catch our breath completely and just watch our offense just do everything that we see in practice. You know, but in the game time now, like, it was an amazing thing. And when we're running the ball, I feel like our offense is really unstoppable because in the past game, you know, Baker has so many weapons and he knows how to find them.
And yeah, one he did find, Chris Godwin, 11 catches for 125 yards, 2 touchdowns. His 5th game with 100-plus receiving yards and multiple touchdowns since 2019, tied for the 5th most in the NFL over that span. I also think I saw that like 105 of his 125 yards were after catch, which is insane. You've obviously had to go against this guy some and see him a bunch in practice and watching him in this game. Tell us why he was such a big weapon in that game and how important that kind of performance was, why he's able to put up those kind of numbers.
I just think he's so reliable, and to have somebody as reliable as that, he's always going to find the soft spots in defenses. And as an offensive coordinator, you can put him in spots to where you know that your quarterback can rely on him to be there and to be open. And Chris, I mean, he's just the hardest worker that I know. I mean, I still remember to this day, I have it implanted in my memory, me coming in as a rookie on a day when nobody was in the locker room, and I just see him completely drenched in sweat before anybody had even gotten to the locker room, gotten into the building. Like, he had already done like 2 workouts before 6 a.m. And it was just incredible to me. I like seeing somebody work that hard, and he's consistent with it. He has not slowed down since. And it's starting to show. I mean, on the field, it shows every single week. And he's just a fun player to watch and an even better person.
That's awesome. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. We'll be back with more with Zyon McCollum. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back to Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. Casey Phillips here with Zyon McCollum. So let's go a little bit more into this last week. Take us through when you learned the hurricane is coming and you guys are going to have to head to New Orleans super early, family, pets, all of the chaos of that. What went through your mind?
Everything, because, well, I'm from Galveston, so we've been through a couple of hurricanes before, being on an island growing up. And so I was just thinking back, but my first thing was, how serious is the hurricane? You know, what category is it and where is it supposed to hit? And once I realized, oh my gosh, this could turn
all
into
of those were
a
bad
category
answers, yeah.
5, and the eye was going to go right over Tampa. You know, it was really a serious thing because, those things can be really destructive and completely change the dynamic of a city and an area for years to come. And so just praying and hoping that, you know, the worst wouldn't come through and completely destroy everything. But, you know, we have a lot of really, really good leadership in place, especially in this organization and in this area. And, you know, I just saw that all the measures were being taken to try to mitigate the damage. Everybody that was in an evacuation zone hopefully got the chance to evacuate, and, you know, the rebuilding begins. What
was it like for you guys that week? I mean, I know NFL players are creatures of habit, to say the least. And obviously everyone's habits were sort of blown out of the water this week of like, you're going to be with, again, a bunch of family and pets and in a hotel, and everything is going to be different about your routine. What were the biggest challenges of that? And then what were potentially some pros that came out of getting a chance to be in this situation with your teammates and their families?
Yeah, definitely big challenges. I mean, bringing your family basically to the workplace and kind of merging the two. You You know, a lot of times they don't really mix, but it was also a chance to bond and for our families to be able to see us in that type of environment and to just learn and to talk to new people. I feel like it brought us closer together in terms of us in a team bonding standpoint. But as far as like changing up in the dynamic, you know, in the off season, I try to like change my environment a lot just to prepare for sudden change in moments like this. Me and my brother will practice, you know, on a backyard one day. We'll go to a random high school the next day. We'll go to a beach the next day. It would just completely change our environments as much as we can. And so when I found out that our environment was changing, you know, I tried to embrace it as much as possible and tried to just double down on my focus. And there was a lot of distractions going on, but we also got a lot of time to watch even more film than we normally would because everybody's just
what else
together.
are you going to be doing?
Nothing else to do, so.
That's pretty incredible. Were there any kind of favorite moments you can remember or things that just kind of stood out to you as funny walking around the hotel?
I don't know. There's just so many different things going on. You know, you got like dog club over here with everybody's dogs meeting each other, which by the way, everybody's dog is so like well behaved.
That's great. That's a good thing.
I know. I have a big Great Dane myself, and so he could make the trip, but if he would, he would have been in paradise just seeing all the dogs and then just walking around and seeing people's families. Everybody's going out to eat. You know, you have people playing games together. It was just a lot and like so much, you know, good vibes just everywhere.
That's great. And I feel like this season, I know every NFL season is going to have sort of its highs and lows, but this season has felt like quite a roller coaster for a lot of different reasons of, you know, I think about the highs of beating Detroit and the lows of the Denver game and then coming in with the Hurricane and then this big win and all of it. It just has felt like this up and down thing. How do you feel like you've been able to handle the emotions of that? How has the team handled it? Where is kind of the leadership and direction come from in trying to how to approach that?
Yeah, I think everybody's done a really good job. And, you know, me in particular, I've just tried to just double down on being present and just trying to chase consistency and just doing everything that I have to do on a week in, week out basis to be the best that I can be on the field. But everybody as a team, like nobody has hesitated. Nobody's, you know, budging. Nobody is panicking and whatsoever. Everybody is just sticking to the course because I think we really know who we are and we really know what we're capable of. And when we're playing at our best, you know, and playing complementary football, like I said, then we feel like we're a really, really dangerous team for everybody in the NFL. And the only way that we can be that dangerous team is for us to just stay confident and to stay moving forward and to not just worry and wave about all the different things that go on.
That's great. And this was your first season coming in knowing you were the named starter, outside corner guy. What was your approach knowing that this season? Was it different than other years? And just how do you feel like you've handled this new position within the team?
Yeah, it was definitely different in the offseason just because I can nail down my studies and my training to specifically one thing, and that's playing corner. And so being able to do that, it allowed me to focus on a lot of the things film study wise and, you know, doing drills where, you know, last year I might have needed to do drills on, you know, 15 different things. And this offseason, you know, I can cut that in half and just really focus on being the best corner. And as a film study junkie like me, you know, that's been the biggest thing for me, and just being able to focus only on what I know I'm going to be going up against every Sunday.
And I know we talked about your interception against the Saints earlier in the show, but tell me that first career interception that happened recently. Take us through that play and just the emotions of, I imagine that the first career interception is something that every DB has dreamt about for years and years and years. How did it compare to what you had imagined it being?
It was incredible. Just like my first career interception in college, I mean, it was like once you catch the first one, then the floodgates are open and you can start catching so much more. And I was just comfortable, you know, just squeezing to the ball. And they say good things happen around the ball. Izzy had an amazing reroute and the ball was in the air and I went in and got it. And that was it. I wasn't trying too much to focus on like making a spectacular catch or anything. I was like, let me just secure the catch whatsoever. And then once that's up and out the way, I can just play ball.
We're talking to Zyon McCollum. I know the defense has dealt with so many injuries. There's always going to be injuries in football, but they've felt so concentrated for you guys at certain position groups and the defense as a whole this season. Now, thankfully, this last game got a lot of the guys back, but I mean, what was that like for you guys dealing with that? And how did injuries at either your position, other positions, how did that affect each other? As we talked about earlier, the chemistry and how important that is in a defensive unit. How did that affect all of you and you personally, and how did you try to approach it?
Definitely the no panic mindset comes into play, and I feel like it, again, just brought us closer together. When guys go down and it's next man up mentality, and this team being so young as it is, you know, guys just being locked in, and that's when you really know how good you are as a team, is when people go down, and now what can you do? Because not every team is going to be 100% healthy going out throughout a year. And I thought that the guys that stepped up did an incredible job, and there wasn't any drop-off. And, you know, that's kudos to the coaching and to Coach Bowles, just putting everybody in places to where they can be successful.
And I know, as we've talked about those injuries, it forced people like Christian Zyon, who you brought up, to play everything under the sun at one point. Tell us how impressive what he did was of going from, you know, nickel and outside and safety and all these things, of how hard, and especially in Todd Bowles' defense, how hard that is and how impressive what he was able to do was.
Like, at all levels of football, I have never in my life seen a guy who plays safety and nickel go and play 2 quarters at corner. I've never seen that ever. And he has never gotten a snap at corner. He never got a snap in college. He hasn't gotten a snap since he's been with the Bucs. But, I mean, he's just the type of person to where he's just like a ball player. Like, he is smart. He understands the defense. He knows where he has to be. And he's the type of guy who's like, if you show him something new or you show him something that, you know, is hard to do, he's the first person to be like, I can do that. You know, let me do that. And so I just know him getting a chance to play corner, he was probably loving it, knowing him. Like, he was probably like, yes, I can finally, you know, show my versatility, show that I can do all of this and everything. And the type of person he is, and, you know, he's a leader too, you know, vocally. And, you know, him being able to step up in Antoine's place, which is big shoes to fill, I feel like he did an incredible job, and he's going to continue to be that type of player.
Yeah, now you get Antoine back, and you had he and Jordan playing alongside each other, which is what we've all been excited to see this season. And tell us about the two of them, of each individually, kind of the dynamic and skill set they bring, but then also them playing next to each other, what that does for each of them and the defense overall.
I just feel like they understand each other so much, and so they can play off of each other so well. You know, the communication is kind of seamless. You know, when you're playing with somebody new, you're looking for eye contact a little bit more. You're using a lot more hand signals, but they kind of, as a twin, the word telepathy gets thrown around a lot. And I feel like those guys, you know, they have some sort of telepathy about them. They kind of know exactly where each other is going to be. And so that allows them to just play faster and to see everything and to communicate more. And like I said, as a corner playing with two really good safeties, you know, the communication has to be there. And, you know, we're communicating, we're talking in between and out of every single play on the bench, you know, getting adjustments done. And when guys like that, you know, they're really fired up about getting better and getting to the next series and watching the film on the sideline and trying to get better, you know, it's a lot of fun to play with.
You know, I think about how we had Levante on the show last week, and he mentioned a lot of times that for him, the younger players and rookies very much have this mindset of like, no, we have to do it exactly as the coaches said. And then the longer you play, the more you have the ability to decide in the moment, have those communications with the other guys and know like, yes, this is our rule of what we want to do, but hey, on this, maybe you hedge here, I do this here. Have you felt yourself doing that more? Is that an accurate thing of kind of your progression, even of going from a rookie to now where you feel like you have the ability to, and I'm not going to call it freelance by any means, but make some of those adjustments and play off of each other more?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you said it perfect. Like, as a rookie, you're almost like trying to be a robotic, just trying to program yourself to be the exact thing that the coaches want. But as you start to relax and mature, you realize that the coaches just are trying to put you in the best position to where you can be successful. And, you know, at the end of the day, they can't think what you think. They're not inside of your head. They can only go off of what you communicate to them and what you show them on the field and on film. And so being able to understand what the coaches want to get done, and then me as a player just knowing my athleticism and knowing what I can do and what I bring to the table, I can kind of get into those same spots just in my own way. And I'm starting to feel myself in that aspect, and being able to be a little bit more aggressive and get away with certain things, and just trying to utilize my athleticism to its fullest extent.
So what all goes through your mind? You're lining up against a wide receiver right before the ball is snapped. What goes through your mind, and then what is your mind doing after the snap?
Before the snap, I'm trying to gain as much information as I can from each and everything. I'm looking at all the details that I watched on film. Where is the receiver located? Are his feet up? Is he making eye contact with me at the line? Because a lot of times when guys, they keep looking at you, something's about to happen, or they might be getting the ball.
Because they're trying to read you too, yeah.
Exactly. But I also try to keep my eyes at the quarterback as much as I can. Like, I'm always looking at the quarterback to check and to make sure, is he going to look over here? Is he looking at, do I need to show a different thing? And so that's all I'm looking at. And then as soon as I think the ball is about to be snapped, my head snaps. I feel like if I focus too hard on one particular thing, like on the receiver, just all and out, I fall too concentrated, and so it causes me to lag.
Don't stay as loose, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But me being able to look at the quarterback and then the last second get my eyes back, now I'm just playing football and just reacting.
And then after the snap, once you're actually in the route, what happens is your mind just a blank and it goes to kind of almost muscle memory, or are you still really thinking about all these little details as you're running with the guy?
It definitely depends. So I'd say it's a little bit of both, but for the most part, if I'm like trying to get my hands on, then my focus is only like, let me just try to completely stop the route, because I don't have to cover, a 25-yard post or a 30-yard go if I do my job in the first 2 seconds of the down. So that's why I'm really big on just winning the first second of every down. If I can win the first second of the down, then normally I can be successful. But if I am, guessing the route or anticipating the route, I should say, then, if I read an inside release, then I'm kind of going through, okay, I'm expecting this route and this route. And I say that it's not that, detailed, because everything happens so quick.
Right.
But it's more of like a feeling type of thing.
Where are the areas you think you've grown the most since your rookie year?
I just think my composure and just being able to understand my play speed in terms of my physical speed, and how I'm mentally, taking in information and seeing the field. And I think tackling too has been a really big thing that I've been trying to work on, and that has gotten better. And when I feel like I can tackle consistently and really good on the field, then it kind of opens my mind up to be able to worry about other things. What route am I getting? What combination am I doing? The situation and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I definitely say probably tackling and then just composure.
You've got hops. Is that fair to say? Yeah, you've got some decent. Do you think you have the highest vertical on the team?
I think so.
Woo.
I would say so.
I don't know why I ever expect anybody to answer anything other than themselves. I don't care what I ask y'all. You're like, yes, I am the best of all
I
things.
would probably say yes.
But I also think you're right. That's pretty good. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. Casey Phillips here with Zyon McCollum. We've talked a little bit about the mental side of things for you, and there's a lot of stereotypes, I feel like, about corners. I don't know how much I feel like you fit most of them. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
so what are the ways that you feel like you have a normal mentality as a corner, or what that even would mean to you? And then how do you feel like you're different than what we expect as an outside corner in this league?
Yeah, I mean, as a normal, I don't know.
Stereotypical little corner, maybe?
I guess, I'm really passionate. As a corner, I really take pride in everything that I'm doing, and I'm really extra critical of myself, as I'm sure as a lot of people in this league. I don't like giving up catches, and when I do, I've had to learn to not let that get to me and to not let that show. And I think that's just being human. When you care so much about a particular thing and things don't end up working in the way that you envision them, it's easy to get emotional and to get upset about that. But I think like my focus is just, so I say the present moment a lot, and just so focused on being right where my 2 feet are. I just try to be positive and be the best optimist that I can, and I'm always smiling. I'm always trying to get to the next thing and try to accomplish the next feat, and just being the best version of me, and not just football, but in every aspect and everything. whether I'm watching film, trying to watch film the best. If I'm, doing a particular drill, trying to do it the best. And I think sometimes in the past that has, put me at fault, because it's like, hey, this is a drill like that we're using to warm up. Why are you like focusing so intently and so hard on this and being so hard on yourself? And so learning to be able to take a deep breath and just relax at times, I think has helped me for sure.
What do you like about playing in Todd Bowles' scheme as a corner? I think that there are certain positions that we look at that are very unique in his defense of what is required of them. But we don't always talk about corner, I think, in that discussion. We'll talk about, outside linebackers have to learn to drop in coverage, or, some of these DB positions get to blitz a lot more than maybe in other areas, or what defensive linemen do. But corner specifically, I'd love to know, in his scheme, what does that look like? What does he require of you? And what do you like about playing in it?
I love playing in it because he asks a lot and he requires a lot. And so I like to put a lot on my plate because I like to do so many different things. And with him, you can never really guess where you're going to be going into a week and going into a game plan. And he'll have you make every single drop that you can imagine on the field in terms of zone coverage. You'll play safety. You'll line up at corner, but you'll play safety. You'll play linebacker. He expects corners to be physical in the run game and to fit gaps and to be able to, at the end of the day, be smart, though, and to correct everybody's wrongdoings, because you are a part of the back end. You have to make everybody right. But I think the biggest thing that he expects is being able to play man coverage and being able to press and being able to take timing off of routes and do things of that aspect. I mean, I could go on with a big book and a list of things that he wants in his corners and requires in his corners. But I think it just adds to the chip that we have on our shoulder. And, him being able to recruit and bring a lot of these guys, him and Jason, like-minded people and body types to that corner room, that, you're good enough to play in this defense when they bring you in and they make you a part of it. And so that just goes to just building our confidence.
I feel like Jamel takes the brunt of Coach Bowles' trash talk. Does that mean that you don't have to bear the brunt as much because he's sort of accepting it for the corner room?
Yeah, I can kind of hide in the shadows a little bit. But, he lets everybody hear it for sure. I know Jamel definitely gets the most in the brunt of it.
I think because he enjoys it. They seem to enjoy going back and forth.
I feel like Jamel teases him at times too. He kind of eggs him on, a father-son relationship in a way. It's very, very funny to watch. And, I get mine too, though. When he comes and he finds me, he makes sure to keep me humble and to keep me, understanding and knowing who I am.
Do you ever give it back, or are you like, nope, I'm smarter than that, not getting involved?
I'll give it back at times,
Okay.
every so often. If I feel like I can win one, then I'll try to give it back, and then I'll quickly realize that I don't think
you ain't
I
gonna
can
win one. That's great. You brought up the father-son relationship. I was thinking about, for you, having a dad that was a professional athlete, how much did that have an influence on your either decision to go play sports, try to become a professional, and just your ability to do so? How big of an influence was that, having him play, in the NBA, play a professional sport?
Yeah, I think it always just made me and my twin brother realize that we can, and, we are good enough, and we have it in our blood. Our dad and our mom used to always say growing up, you have it in your blood, you can heal fast and you're crazy athletic.
It's like Superman, your dad. It's in your blood. You were made by Marvel.
Exactly. And so, I didn't necessarily know, because we didn't decide to play basketball, and we decided we loved football a little bit more. And so there wasn't really a path in particular of nobody's telling us, you got to run routes, you got to do this, you got to be able to do a 40 and all these different things. And so we kind of just had to bounce off of each other. But just having the belief, I think, is the most important part. And, for our parents to just continue to spill off belief that no matter what we do in life, that as long as we're having fun and we're doing what we love, that everything is going to happen the way that we want it.
Now, you said you decided not to play basketball. But did also maybe your height decide for you for a little bit there? Because weren't you a pretty late grower?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I was 5'2", all the way through 8th grade. I didn't hit my growth spurt until going into my junior year in high school. So that was pretty miraculous. But our mom always told us when we were young and we were short, she was like, I'm sorry, you're short like me. But you know what? You're fast and you're quick. And you have to work that much harder to keep up with a lot of the bigger people that are around, in basketball and in football. And so it just caused us to like, dang, we got to work even harder to be able to keep up. And then when we ended up having that growth spurt and shooting up to, 6'2", I think we grew like 4 or 5 inches, in the summer. Like,
Jeez.
it was pretty crazy. That speed and that quickness, it never left us. It stayed with us. And so then we were kind of like, oh, this is kind of our superpower now. Yeah. We have to keep working and keep holding on to this.
And how did having a twin influence sports for you? That I've always thought that's an interesting thing of when a team has two of the same, genetic person here, like what that's like playing with each other, having each other always to practice against, and just the way you think that influenced the type of athlete you both became.
I mean, it's hard for me to like speak in I's. Like, I'm always speaking in we's when I talk about him and when I talk about back home and our experience, just because like as a twin, I kind of see us as like one. I mean, we did everything together and we continue to do everything together. And having a twin, I wish everybody could have a moment to like experience some time alone, like with like a fake twin, like just their twin. Like, it would be amazing, because it has been so important for, me and growing into the person that I am. And I'm sure Tristan can speak the same. But I mean, being able to always have somebody growing up to pass the football with, working on drills, looking at film study, and, me looking at him and being like, can you give me that look, do exactly what that person did, and vice versa. We understand each other so well. And so when we have these off-season workouts, we're always challenging ourselves, and he's always going to do the things that I hate the most from an offensive player. And
please tell me what that is first. We'd love to hear. What do you hate for offensive players to do?
Just all the crazy moves and, all the routes. And it's a bunch of different things. It's very like small details, but he believes that he could be a receiver in the league. So
okay. So he's enjoying this.
I'm always going to get his best look every single time, but vice versa. I also believe that.
You also believe that. Of course you do.
So, but just us being able to have that friendly competition. I remember growing up, we used to be really, really hard on each other, and we used to, tear each other down, and it was a fight for, who's the better twin, who's the best. But once we realized that we could actually get scholarships and go to college and play football, everything changed, and we began to work together. And competition, instead of it being argumentative and who's going to come out on top, it was just, who's going to get better. I remember us going to the field in our apartment complex and just running routes and one-on-ones on each other for hours on end. And every time one person would win, it was just like, just get to the next rep and just do it over and over and over and over again. And that helped our mindsets grow into that worker, for sure. And
you guys tackle each other full on without pads. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we did this off season, especially just wanting to get better, just finding ways to get better. And fear, I think, is a big factor when it comes to tackling for a lot of people in the league. And so being able to take the pads off and to hit somebody who I think is hard to tackle. Yeah. I think my brother's pretty hard to tackle. Without pads, I mean, it just helps our fundamentals, and a little psycho, but, that's what twins are for.
Yeah. Maybe a future in rugby after this. You're already prepared to know how to tackle without pads.
Yeah,
We're talking to Zyon McCollum. I know you guys did get a chance to technically play against each other last year, but he was on the practice squad for a lot of that. And so what was it like now this season, getting to watch him be out there, and you're not going to play against each other when you both are on defense, but getting to be on the same field in the NFL?
It was amazing. Like I say, we practice like changing our environment in different situations in the off season, but like we actually trained, like went to a field. He was on the opposite sideline. I was on the opposite sideline, and we were like trying to simulate it actually happening and playing against each other. And so seeing it, going through that, and then seeing it come to fruition and seeing it come to real life, me looking over on the sideline and seeing him in that Eagles uniform, it was just even more surreal than the playoff game was, because, we knew he was going to be in it, and we knew that he was playing. And when a couple of their safeties went down and he went in at safety, hearing his name on the Jumbotron and him seeing him fly down and just make plays the way that he does, like, as a twin brother, like, it just makes my heart shine, and I just feel so good just even thinking about it.
That's awesome. I love that. And it's so interesting to think about you getting drafted here. You mentioned earlier in the show from the Galveston area, went to Mike Evans High School, and then you guys as twins grew up reading Rondé and Tiki's books. How wild was that for you, and how quickly did you realize both of those connections upon getting drafted here?
As soon as I got drafted, Mike Evans hit me up almost immediately. And I knew, growing up in Galveston, Mike Evans, the Galveston legend, and Bucs legend as well.
Yeah.
He's been doing this for a long time. And so I knew immediately, I was like, I'm really going to get to play with Mike Evans, like the person who I'm going to high school classes. I'm going to, 7th period, and we got a player and coach versus student basketball game. And Mike is just walking the halls just like normal and just being a kid, and then seeing him, like, it was pretty surreal, a pretty surreal thing. And really, really cool.
That's cool. And then the Rondé one, did that take you a little longer to figure out?
That one, almost, because I knew Rondé played for the Bucs. And once the smoke kind of cleared and I could settle and really just think about everything, I was like, Tristan, you realize, Rondé and Tiki Barber, like, we used to read their book religiously, like, every single night in elementary school. And now I'm playing for the Bucs. Like, we're twins now. And he plays for the Eagles. I know Tiki played for the Giants for a long time. But he's in the same division. So it's kind of funny, like, how things are working out.
That's great. What was the, like, for you when you did get a chance to come here, and not only you're, like, on the team with Mike Evans, who, like you said, Galveston legend, you've heard and seen for all these times, but then you're going to get a chance to go against him in practice. What was that like the very first time you lined up against him, and what has it been like facing him?
The first time you get that kind of starstruck moment, like, dang, this is somebody who I've been seeing on TV for my entire life.
Yeah. And
who I've been seeing as a kid, coming to our high school and just going crazy into basketball. But just seeing him as a football player too. So my first time lining up, it was like, oh my gosh. I think I was more focused on, like, if somebody taking a picture of this than actually defending and guarding him. But being able to just grow from every single rep that he gives me, and, trying to work on my weaknesses, and going out there, I try to put as much pressure on myself when I'm guarding him, because there's a lot of pressure when you go into a game and defend people one-on-one. And so if I put my pressure on myself during practice, then the game just feels that much easier. And going against a player like him, future Hall of Famer, he's still at the top of his game, and he's probably the best receiver that I've defended one-on-one.
All right, so outside of him, outside of any of our wide receivers, toughest wide receivers you've had to face?
Toughest wide receiver matchups. Let me think about this one. I have to say probably Nico Collins, I would say, from Texans. He's just a really, really big receiver, again, just like Mike Evans, and he has that speed, deceptive speed. And when he gets going, I think that he's been a really good player in this league for a while, and people have just kind of swept him under the rug, because he's very low-key. And being in Houston and the Texans, that's kind of where my college was, at Sam Houston, so we're really close. And my brother got to play with him his first year in Houston, and he was like, dude, we got a lot of talent on this team, but this dude number 12, he's a player. And so that's the first time I really, like, did a deep dive into Nico. And then being able to guard him last year, I mean, I was like, yeah, this guy is the real
legit.
deal.
Yeah. How about toughest quarterbacks to face? Again, outside of our own in-house here.
Right, yeah, of course. Probably Pat. I mean, he just brings so much to the table. As a DB, you're going to have to defend for an extra 3 seconds on any given play, for an extra 5 seconds, and then just the stuff that he does. I mean, quarterbacks, like, that's not an easy position to play, obviously. And, you're back there, you got 5 people trying to protect you from some of the nastiest, most savage defenders
people trying to kill you
in the world. So it's like, it's easy to get just frantic back there. I mean, I can only imagine. But Pat, he doesn't look frantic. He's very, very composed, and, he can just make things happen with anything.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take one more break. We have a final segment coming up here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into our final segment here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. Casey Phillips here with Zyon McCollum. For you, how has it changed what you watch on film? I feel like always that's a big part of learning the NFL and the growth of it. What do you tend to focus on and watch, and how has that changed?
Yeah, I watch almost everything, but I start in the beginning of the week. I'm watching formations and just trying to see all the different plays that they have in their playbook, what they're capable of. all the things that they do a lot of, and then the things that where they can change it up and do a little bit of. And once I kind of understand by formation what everybody's trying to do, then I'll start to nail it down to some of the finer details, just broaden it 2x2, 3x1, empty sets, what players do they like to get the ball to. And then once I kind of understand the offensive scheme, towards the end of the week, I kind of let the scheme go, and because I want to be able to practice like it's the game. So I want to learn it really, really fast in the beginning and then try to forget it so that when I go out to practice, I can see how quickly I can recall information and communicate it. And by the end of the week, I'm just trying to get personnel-wise, trying to see how these receivers run their routes. Do they like to hide tendencies? Do they have any tendencies? Things of that aspect. And then finishing it off on game day, I watch a little bit of film in the morning just to see if I'm really am ready.
Yeah, I like that. And man, of people to watch this week, you got a lot of people you're facing. That Ravens offense is no joke. So tell me, Lamar Jackson, a guy like that who is such a threat running, does also have such a great arm, has so many weapons. What is it like to face a quarterback like him?
I mean, he's a dynamic player, and I just remember my first primetime game was versus the Ravens, and so I remember that. I didn't like the way I played, so I have a lot on this game personally, just trying to come back and prove that to go out there and win this game, because we lost it the first time 2 years ago. But he just brings so much, he can run the ball obviously, but he can go from under center and he can hand the ball off, and he can be a dynamic thrower in the passing game, and he can scramble around. The Ravens just as a whole, team can morph into whatever you want them to be. If they go up against a physical team, they can run the ball and they can be physical. And if they go up against, a pass-happy team and it ends up being a shootout, then, he can throw and he can make those big spectacular plays and they can put up a bunch of points on the board. So I just think that they do a really good job of kind of morphing themselves and changing, on a game plan basis. And so it'll be a tough task.
I know it is very early in the week when we're recording this, and so you probably haven't gotten a chance to dive into any of that yet, still just coming off of the last game. But looking at guys like Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, tell me what stands out to you from what you remember watching them in the past or any other games that you've seen. Again, I know you haven't dove into the film yet, but what stands out to you about those guys?
Yeah, I know Zay Flowers. He can run almost every route on the route tree and at a really high level, and he's really fast in and out of his cuts. He's one of those smaller guys, so he's shifty, and he can make all those crazy, cuts, and he's dynamic after the ball when he has the ball. And Rashad Bateman, he's been in the league for a while, so he's a savvy vet, and he has that size about him. And so being able to be a big guy that can still run and get open for his quarterback is a good thing. But, going against receivers, when we have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and, and Shep and all those guys, J-Mac, that give us work on a day in, day out basis, it allows us to be more confident and knowing that, I've covered a fast, shifty guy in practice. I've covered a big physical receiver who can run routes in practice.
We're talking to Zyon McCollum. I don't know if there's anyone in the league who could give you a look like Derrick Henry other than Derrick Henry. That one is a little hard to replicate. I will never forget the first time I walked by him in person, and you hear that he's particularly big and strong and fast for running back. But I remember being like, this is ridiculous. Knowing you mentioned earlier, Coach Bowles definitely expects you guys as corners to step up in the run game. And I'm sure this is a game where you're like, are you sure, Coach, that we need to be a part of this? But tell me what it's like in your mind going against someone like him and how that can affect what you're thinking about as you're out there on the outside.
Yeah, get him before he gets you. That's the best thing I could say. Going up against really, really high-class talent, guys just tend to focus even more and to raise their game to an even higher level. And so going against a team like this, you're going against Derrick Henry, who can run the ball like a maniac and who's the biggest, probably strongest running back that we'll see in a while. I remember my first time seeing him too, and I was like, what? That's Derrick Henry? No way. That's like a man created in a lab. And so I think it's just being able to, everybody just needs to be in the right spots. And like I said, throw the first punch, get him before he gets you, and everything won't hurt us.
We had talked about, Thursday night football. We know how hard that is to play in a short week. Now that you have Monday night football, how much does that extra day matter to you guys from a preparation standpoint, your body? How big of a difference can that make?
Yeah, I think it's huge personally. Anytime you get an extra day of work, just to get your body back and to feel comfortable and to feel like you are at your right play speed, extra massages, extra stretching and yoga and things of that sort, so that you're playing your fastest, I think is the biggest thing. But then also in terms of film study, a lot of times you have to cram a bunch of film into one day. And a lot of times if you're, studying 3 hours, 4 hours of film at a time, you're going to get it, but at the same time, it might be too much. There is a such thing as doing and watching too much film, I think. And so having an extra day, you can kind of, where I would normally watch, 2 hours a day, now I can watch, an hour and 45 or an hour 40 a day, and just really, really focus a lot harder on the film that I am watching, knowing that I'm going to be able to spread it out and be more detail-oriented that way.
And Monday Night Football at home, how different does that end up feeling than a normal game? And how does it maybe even change some of your preparations of being a primetime night game versus a 1 o'clock game? And then also just the emotions and prestige that comes with the primetime game?
Primetime game is also amazing because, for one, you play at night, so I get to take a bunch of naps during the day.
I love it. Not even just one nap, a bunch of naps. That's great.
A bunch of naps. But also, these are the type of games that us as players, we live for, and we always dreamed of playing in. Monday night, nobody else is playing at the time that you're playing, college, high school, NFL, so all eyes are on y'all. And playing at night in Raymond James, I just love the atmosphere, and the stadium's gonna be rocking, and the little light show, and hopefully we wear red. We've been wearing a lot of white, and so maybe we get to see some different jerseys and just have a different swag and different aura about us as a team. And I just think it's a fun thing. It'll be a fun experience for the younger guys that haven't experienced it, but also it's always an amazing experience for everybody that's been a part of it.
That's awesome. Well, Zyon, thank you so much for spending time with us. We really appreciate it. I know that it's been a long week leading up to this, and you were getting in late last night, so we really appreciate the time. And, man, just excited to watch you now the rest of the season, watch you on Monday Night Football taking on the Ravens, and thank you again so much.
Oh, yeah, of course. I can't wait. Thank you for having me.
All right, that's going to do it for us on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. This is Buccaneers Radio.